So when we can coach, we can also role play. I'm a huge fan of role play. I believe the hardest 4 inches to move in our life is brain to mouth. And so the best way to grow our people is through role play. But if you go back on the internet somewhere, it's going to be more than 15 years ago, you can find an article I wrote about how role play sucks. Because I had a bunch of bad role play done to me. I'm sure you've had bad role play done to you, right, sir? Yeah. And it was all about my leader getting his emotional needs met in the role play instead of growing me. You know, I trained in Muay Thai and Thai boxing for 10 years. And when we would spar, we would say there are no world champions in the gym. We are here to support each other and grow each other, not destroy each other. And yeah, I was sparring with a guy who currently fights in the UFC at 145 pounds. He was a lot better than I was. But we had a mutual respect and agreement as the purpose of our practice, which is role play, was not to get our emotional or physical needs met. So, best practices for role play. Number one, we gotta let them know in advance. I've had sellers in my sales development program who have had decades of sales experience. And the minute we put them in even a basic role play, they start sweating and their heart starts beating like a cartoon character, right? It's 1,000 miles an hour and outside of front of their chest. So we'll let them know in advance. Next thing we want to do is to thin slice it. Thin slice it. There's a gentleman named Anders Ericsson, passed away a few years ago. The book Peak, P-E-A-K. Some of you, show of hands if you've read the book Peak. If you have not read the book Peak, that's where the 10,000 hour rule that Malcolm Gladwell misquoted comes from. So Anders Ericsson was actually the guy who did the research that became the 10,000 hour rule. And he talks about thin slicing. So for our world, role-playing a prospecting call or role-playing a demo is a great way to actually impede the progress of our sellers in getting better. Because there's too much going on, they can't remember it. But if we thin slice it down and we build, we're gonna practice the first 2 minutes of a prospecting call. Pattern interrupt, upfront contract, into your 30-second commercial. Or we're gonna practice what happens when you're in the budget step and the buyer says, tell me how much it costs. That's what we're gonna thin slice. Now what that also means is we need to build them a solid platform. I don't know how many of you have ever done improv training, but at Sandler in Calgary, our role plays are improv-based because, well, we don't give our buyers our scripts, and also our clients can come up with some of the best role plays that I couldn't script out in 1,000 years. So a platform in improv means what's the scene, right? Where are we in the sales process? What's the buyer? What's their persona? What's their motivation? What's the seller supposed to do? And along with that, we've got to give them a clear ending. Because if we don't give our sellers a clear ending for our role play, eventually they start to feel like they're in a dark tunnel and they can see a light at the end, but they don't know if that light is safety or a train that's going to run them over. And the more their anxiety increases, the less they remember. So we want to ensure that they have a clear ending. Now, what this means, if you're following these best practices, is you and your sellers are going to be starting and ending role plays in the middle of a conversation and in the middle of a sales cycle. And if your sellers have the mental agility to be able to role play in the middle of a sales cycle, they can handle anything that their buyer throws at them because they will be perfectly present and perfectly relaxed and actively listening to their buyer instead of getting caught up in their head about what am I supposed to say next. So the method for role play that we recommend is that the leader goes first and then we debrief. And when we debrief, I'll say, so Al, how'd that sound to you? And Al's like, yeah, you know, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, Al's probably saying that because I'm his boss, but that's okay. I'll say, you know, Al, I'm a different communication style than you. How would you say it? Fascinating thing is human beings tend not to listen to the words that come out of their mouth the first time they say them. So then I go back and role play, and I role play again using Al's words. And then when I debrief, I say, hey, Al, how'd that sound? Al's like, man, that was really good. Yeah, because it was your stuff, dude. And now he owns it. And so then I say, hey, Al, I've gone twice. How about you go once, and then we'll debrief. I'm not going to play boogie prospect, right? I'm not here to get my emotional needs met. I'm here to support you. With the sellers on my team, I can run this format of role play in less than 20 minutes. Less than 20 minutes. It's amazing how we can build a person up in less than 20 minutes by following a process, putting the pressure on the process, not the people. Now, of course, improv is a game, and all good games have rules. So our clients in Calgary came up with the first 3 of these rules. The first 2 are the person playing buyer. Now, David Sandler said, the worst person to role play with is a seller who's just taken all their bad experiences out on you. So don't be mean, don't sabotage. Doesn't mean we can't throw curveballs, but we're not here to get our emotional needs met. We're here to support each other. The next 2 rules are for the person playing seller. Number 1 is keep going. I played jazz band in high school, and our band leader used to say, if you think you played a wrong note, unless it was a solo, might have happened to me once or twice, keep going, because you're probably the only person who played that wrong note. And then the other thing is, it's okay to say pause, because role play is anxiety causing. So sometimes we get up in our head and we're like, hey, I just need to take a break. And like when I was sparring in Muay Thai, we get something in our eye and we turn around. When we were ready to go, we say back and roll. So if you ever pause or your seller pauses, you say back and roll. Now you can't use pause as a comma, right? Your seller can't say pause every 3rd sentence. That's not the way it gets to work in the real world. They just got to keep going. So role play with your people once a week, minimum. Best practice, so if you follow my book on accountability, 5-minute check-in on Monday, 15-minute checkout on Friday, and 1 25-minute coaching/role play every single week. One of our clients had 14 sellers in their reporting to them. They worked out that it would be 4.5 hours a week to follow that process. And they were like most sellers, it was a 37.5-hour work week, right? All of you sales leaders are 37.5 hours a week, yes? Yes. So it was a little bit more than 10% of their week to have complete clarity with their sellers and to support and grow them.
Thank you for watching this highlight video from the Sandler Summit. You can join us for the next Sandler Summit in 2024, March 19th and 20th at the Orlando World Center Marriott. Register now at sandler.com/summit.